Let's sing a morning song, shall we? We're going to sing O River, and it's not in the hymn book, so no need to open up a hymn book and try and find it. We've sung this before. When we've done it before, we've sung just two different parts to it. And today we're going to try and add a third and a fourth part. Oh my goodness. And then maybe some drums. You'll remember the beginning part goes, finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Not so hard, huh? Not so hard. And then the melody that goes with that is, oh, river, I feel you, I hear you, feel you calling me. Got to get the verbs there. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Again, we do that. Oh, river, I hear you, feel you calling me. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Then we have this new part that we're going to do. Can you switch it over to one more slide? There we go. Oh, there, that's the one, part two. Does that look tricky? Boom, bits a bitty bitty, 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 boom. It's easier to do if you don't look at those words. You can spend too much energy trying to go, boom, what? Now, can you give me the next slide? Or maybe it's the previous slide. Yeah, then we have this what we would call, if we were singing Silent Night, this is the descant, huh? I am home. I am home. Try it again. Now let's fit that together, huh? Have you decided which part it is you want to do? I've asked Reverend Mary to help me. Reverend Mary's going to lead when we get to the Oh River. So if you want to sing that part, you're singing with Reverend Mary. Okay? But before we get to that, we're going to get the Finding My Way, and we're going to get the boom, bits a bitty bitty going. Then we'll bring that in, and then finally some descant. So be brave. It's all about having fun, some fun. Here we go. Finding my way, ready, and finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Keep that going. Here we go. Boom, bits a bitty bitty, boom, bits a bitty bitty, boom, bits a bitty bitty, boom. Bits a bitty bitty, boom, 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 bits a bitty, oh, bits a bitty, boom, bits a bitty bitty, boom, boom, bits a bitty bitty, oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Keep it going. Boom, bits a bitty bitty, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way back home. Finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way back. Let's add some descant. I am home. Just the melody and the rhythm. Boom, bits a bitty bitty 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 boom. Add the descant. I am home. I am home. If we had room for all of you, we would have a new choir. There we go. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Just expand.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia UU congregation. Our community envisions an interconnected world that is loving, just, and healthy. We commit to live out our mission to welcome and wonder, embrace and empower, bridge and become. Thank you for choosing to join us this morning. You are welcome here just as you are, whatever beliefs sustain you, whomever you love, however you understand and express your identity, and in all the ways you are still becoming the person you will be. My name is Ann Colbury. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of the worship arts team. I'm a white woman of average height with chin length, mostly dark hair, and glasses. I'm considered a senior. I'm wearing a black sweater and a scarf embroidered with fall colors. Leading worship with me this morning is Reverend Mary, Troy Fisher, our music director, and our guest speaker, Monica Jacobson-Tennessen. Reverend Monica is OUUC's consulting minister for the 2023-24 church year. She also serves Community UU in Pasco, Washington. She lives in Vancouver, Washington, with her spouse, tweenager, and 2 mischievous Siamese cats. Here are a few important things about our service this morning. We are streaming live on YouTube and on Zoom, and the service is being recorded. You can see the sometimes creative subtitles on the screen in front if you're here in the sanctuary, and on your screen if you're online. Over here we have fluffy chairs, toys, and activities for busy hands so everyone can be comfortable. We are a multi-generational community, and we value our young ones. Babies, kids, and teens are all welcome here in the sanctuary. We also offer nursery care and a story time program just down the hall in the classroom wing. We're grateful to everyone who helped make worship happen this morning. Thank you to all who have contributed in so many ways. After the service, everyone will have the chance to discuss reflection questions offered by Reverend Monica. For those online, we invite you to stay on to be directed into a breakout room for a virtual coffee chat. For those in person, please feel free to stay for food and fellowship in the Commons. Kurt Hill will lead a reflection circle in the youth room today, so grab a beverage and join him. At 11:30, after the coffee chat, please return to the main Zoom room or here into the sanctuary for time with the Board of Trustees. They will offer a question for small group discussions. Also at 11:30, young adults, roughly those ages 18 to 40, are invited to a young adult group lunch. Look for Keto Bay or head back to classroom 3 after 11:30. Book sale news. Please spread the word to all your friends, neighbors, and contacts. It's not English that's being shown up there. We are streaming around the world. Okay. Okay. All right. Book sale news. Get this. Okay. Please spread the word to all your friends, neighbors, and contacts that our books, brownies, and bean sale is in just 2 weeks on Saturday, October 28th. If you haven't yet volunteered for this fun and important community fundraiser, look for the BBB volunteers, coordinators in the Commons after worship for help finding the job that's just right for you. There are so many things happening at OUUC. Check out the Tuesday electronic update or the website for the most current information. Now, let's open our hearts and minds as we prepare for worship. It is good to be together. This morning, we join UU congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. If you're online and have a chalice or candle, please join me as we light our chalices together with the words of Jennifer Grayson. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods, yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change this world.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennessen. I use she, her pronouns. I am a short white woman with a bob of mixed light brown and silver hair, wearing a green dress and a blue minister's stole. And I'm 40 years old, so depending on your perspective, I am still fairly young or definitely middle-aged, or maybe older than dirt if you're my tweenager. Our opening words today are adapted from the work of the Reverend William Sloane Coffin. May we who gather here have the strength to never sell ourselves short, the courage to risk something big for something good, and the wisdom to remember that the world is too dangerous for anything but truth, and too small for anything but love. In that spirit, come, let us worship together.
Let's sing together again, this time out of the gray hymnal, hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, and invite you to rise in body and or spirit, and let's sing together.
While the
Today's story is of a very old congregation called First Church of Dedham, Massachusetts. Religiously, Unitarians are directly descended from the Puritans and Pilgrims who colonized Massachusetts beginning in 1620, 400 years ago. Although they perceived themselves to be settling a wilderness, they were actually displacing the Wampanoag, Pequot, Narragansett, and Mohegan tribes who lived in that area. They gave little thought to accommodating these people, believing their own style of living and their religion were superior. Tension and violent confrontations eventually rose between these two groups. This was due to both the increasing number and size of colonial settlements on tribal lands, and also the colonists' efforts to convert native peoples to Christianity. As these groups of settlers arrived from England, they duplicated the arrangement of English towns, building houses close together with their fields surrounding the town. Generally, colonists who settled each town came from the same place in England and already knew one another. By contrast, those in the Dedham settlement came from different places in England, and they were unacquainted. This is the story of how they came to form both their town and eventually their church. By 1637, about 30 families were newly settled in Dedham. They didn't know one another because they'd sailed on different ships from different parts of England and had lived for a while in different towns. They all came to Dedham to form a new township with the permission of the General Court of Massachusetts. First, they had to design a town government so they could legally allot fields for growing crops and smaller lots in town for building houses. Then they built pens for their animals, planted initial crops, built houses, unpacked or pegged together furniture, and so on, and began to think of founding a church. Since they'd been working so hard to meet their family's immediate needs, they hadn't worked to know one another very well. Most of them were farmers, but other than that, they didn't know much about each other. So, guess what these New Englanders did in 1637 to get to know each other and to approach, gently, slowly, some very profound and personal religious issues? Hint, think of our Soul Matters groups. Yes, they set up a series of weekly neighborhood meetings to, quote, lovingly discourse and consult together and prepare for spiritual communion in a church society so that we might further be acquainted with the tempers and gifts of one another. In other words, they wanted to socialize so they knew what it would be like to worship and work together. They held meetings every Thursday at several houses in order by turns. Anybody in Dedham was welcome to attend. An account in the Dedham Church record lists the questions they discussed throughout the 1637 weekly meetings. Several features of these discussions are intriguing. First, the Dedham residents didn't begin to talk about establishing a church by discussing the Bible. Instead, they addressed the question of what was required to create a peaceful and just community. Having just come from the anguish of religious persecution in European society in the 1600s, they knew there could be no peaceably functioning free church if it was not set within a larger society where concerns for justice, peace, and reasonable laws could be freely and effectively voiced without oppression. They knew they wanted to be able to speak up for justice. Eventually, after much discussion about how to create a civil society, they edged closer to talking about establishing a church. Their next question was, here we are, not presently members of any church. We don't know each other well religiously. Are we even qualified to assemble together and confer like this? They decided we are if we seem to be, and we think we are acting out of, in our terms, genuinely deep religious love. Then they asked, well, if we can meet like this as neighbors, do we even need a church? Is this enough? Their answer, nope, this is too casual. If we truly want to live in the ways of our deepest love, then we must intentionally form a much deeper community of love. And they reasoned that others in the larger society needed the example of love which a free church would publicly show. They understood the role of the church as filling the needs of both the members and the larger community. Their principal conclusion, derived from all these weeks of discussion, was that the members of their new free church should be joined in a covenant of religious loyalty to the spirit of love. Furthermore, once they were joined by the covenant they had created and signed, they concluded their loyalty within the church should be only to the spirit of love working in their own hearts and minds, not a set of beliefs or rules. The lay people who founded First Church in Dedham established then, as we continue to affirm now, that the integrity of the free church comes down to loyalty to the spirit of love at work in the hearts and minds of the local members. This is why we still say together in many of our congregations, love is the doctrine of this church. Each Sunday, we engage in the spiritual practices of generosity and gratitude by joining together in service to our congregational community and to something greater than ourselves. Each of us has the power to share, and when we combine our gifts to create a joint offering, we are able to do more than any of us can do alone. Through our offering, we also express our gratitude for the gifts that life has given us, for the large network of relationships in which we live, and for the presence of this community. If you are new or visiting us for the first time, we welcome you as a guest without expectations. However, if you feel moved to participate in our offering, whatever you share will be gratefully received. The offering collected here does two things. It furthers the ongoing work of this congregation, which is also supported by our regular pledges. The offering also supports an organization that serves the larger community in harmony with our UU values. This month, our Share the Plate organization is the Black Power Pathways, a mutual aid fund. Here's a short video they share about their work.
Hello, my name is Shayna and I use they, them pronouns, and I am the secretary for Black Power Initiative. I started the Black Power Initiative in 2020 due to me seeing the lack of resources for Black people in Thurston County. The first year we had redistributed $16,000 and over $30,000 since 2020 with the help of our community partners. Black Power Pathways, formerly known as Pathway to Hope, sponsors the Black Power Initiative.
I'm Zuli. I use they, them, their pronouns. I'm co-executive. And I work on BPI because I see a gap in communities being served. Only 1% of financial services provided give to Black communities. There's a lack of services in our own community. And I initially saw people, specifically Black people, who needed access to housing, job resources and food resources and just security. I want to make a lasting impact and provide services where there are current and historical limitations and intentional barriers. Your contribution to redistribute funds may seem small, but in actuality, it is a tangible act of mutual aid that makes a difference in individual and families' lives in Thurston County. This builds towards systemic change that provides tools and resources for Black community members to make impactful decisions about their lives. We prioritize LGBTQIA+, sex workers, veterans, single parents, SADV survivors, undocumented, unhoused, and disabled folks.
And I'm Stevie. I use they, them pronouns. And as a white person, I help with the BPI because economic justice is not charity. We are shifting the legacy of wealth and labor extraction from the Black community. And if we each commit to doing our part, this is totally possible and a form of true solidarity and not just lip service.
Participate in the offering by making a donation online through the OUUC website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen. You can also mail a check to Olympia UU or place your offering in one of the baskets being passed by the ushers. May the offering now be generously given, as it will be gratefully received. Thank you so much for your generous gifts in all the ways that you share them. We came together this morning bringing everything that is in our lives. Let's open our hearts to the complexity of life as we place stones in the water of community. You will hear a drumbeat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of our community. So right now, let's just take a deep breath together, in and out, as we open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our lives, our community, and our world today. We will place 2 stones in the water this morning in acknowledgement of the war in the Middle East. 1 stone is for the people of Israel, who have suffered a terrorist attack, the latest in a long history of oppression of the Jewish people, who wish for a land and a way of life that nourishes their culture and history. And a stone for the Palestinian people, who suffer the consequences of war, as they also wish for a land and a way of life that nourishes their culture and history. Once more, we raise our voices in prayer for peace in the Middle East. Closer to home, Bobby and Mike Murray send their thanks for the cards and visits as Mike has faced some health challenges. Mike is back in the hospital again, and he expects to be there for a while longer. He says he has a good idea of the next steps and feels well cared for. He would appreciate visits while he's there. So please check in with Bobby if you'd like to stop by. She's in the directory, or you can call the church office. Mike and Bobby, we send you our love and care as you navigate this next path of your health challenge. For those joining us online today, I invite you to share from your heart by entering on the chat. We can see what you share on the screen here in the sanctuary. And for those on site today, I invite you to come forward if there's something you would like to bring into this community. You may place a stone in the water as you hold your sharing in your heart. It works best if you come up by the side aisle and return by the center aisle. So let's hear the heartbeat of our community as we reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share today. We'll place a stone in the water for all that has been shared online, shared from the heart. And one more stone placed in the water for all that we hold in our hearts and that remains unspoken. Let's take a moment now to harmonize our bodies and our breath. Please be in whatever way is comfortable for you to hum. When we sing together, we breathe together. So in a moment, I'm going to start humming, and I just invite you to join me. Pick a note and hum. You can change your note or stay on the same or harmonize or whatever it is you wish to do. And as we hum, I invite you to place your hand on your chest or on your belly so that you can feel the vibrations in your body. We'll hum for a bit, enjoying the vibrations we make together. And when our humming comes to an end, we'll be in silence for a bit. Mm-hmm.
Let's remain seated and sing together this lovely chant by Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, Return Again. It's hymn number 1011 in the Till Hymn Book. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Today's reading is from the Tapestry of Faith curriculum entitled Faith Like a River, A History of Covenant. The free church tradition of which we are a part does not offer up a creed, that is, a certain set of beliefs that everyone must accept in order to belong to the community. Instead, the boundaries of our community are determined by commitment and participation. Our central question is not, what do we believe, but rather, what values will we uphold and how will we do this together? Our covenant, that is, the promises we make to each other regarding how we will be a community of faith, is at the heart of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. The notion of covenant is an ancient one. It is a central theme of both the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. When the early Puritans came to America looking to form a new type of church, they chose to gather their congregations using the ancient form of covenant. Those first churches in America were created by mutual consent for mutual benefit in a time and place where survival depended on mutual cooperation, but they were not formed solely from need. They were also a reaction to a form of church organization that not only required everyone to subscribe to a certain set of beliefs, but also put all the power and control in the hands of a church hierarchy. It is important to remember that our freedom of belief is closely tied to our practice of self-governance or congregational polity, guided by our covenants. By today's definitions, neither the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony nor the Puritans of the Massachusetts Bay Colony would be understood as democratically governed or theologically diverse. But they did lay the basis for the values of congregational polity and theological diversity, which are the foundation of our contemporary faith communities. The Cambridge Platform of Church Discipline, written by the New England Puritans in 1648 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, describes this new form of church governance. In The American Creed, Forest Church paraphrases the Puritans' essential covenant as this: "We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection, as best we know them now, or may learn them in the days to come, that we and our children may be fulfilled, and that we may speak to the world in words and actions of peace and goodwill." The Cambridge Platform goes on to define just what constitutes a church, yet this simple promise to walk together in the ways of truth and affection remains the basis of this document.
I want to say first, I'm a little delighted that we accidentally got Hungarian subtitles this morning. Because although I'm going to speak about the parts of our heritage that come through the Puritan and the Pilgrim traditions, some of our heritage also comes through the Hungarian Unitarian Church in Transylvania. But today we will look at our theological heritage on our Unitarian side of the family, which comes from these groups we've been naming in our readings, the Puritans and the Pilgrims. It's a complicated heritage. Today, it can be hard for us to understand just how radical it was for the Pilgrims and the Puritans to form covenanting communities, where individuals chose to be part of the congregation, and then the congregation chose a preacher and a teacher from among them. But we are, and always have been, a deeply relational faith. We are a people of covenant. And our covenants are a way of saying that we need each other. In our relationships, we learn and we grow and we deepen. We make mistakes and we help each other to learn to do better next time. And there is a tension between the Unitarian Universalist optimism about each person's potential for good and the Puritan pessimism about each person's potential for sin. For 3 years, I served a congregation in Plymouth County, Massachusetts. I was right near the town of Plymouth, which today brands itself as America's hometown, because the Pilgrim settlement there was one of the first permanent settlements of white colonists in what is now the United States. There is lots to say about that history and how it still echoes in the wider culture, and if you'd like a book, I can make a recommendation. But for now, let's look at this one facet, this pessimism about human nature that comes through this establishment of a wave of white culture in the early days of colonizing what is now our country. The Pilgrims were, like the Puritans, who followed them a few years later, a dissenting splinter group from what is now the Church of England. They landed in what is now Massachusetts just in time for a harsh winter, and about half of those who came on the Mayflower died that winter. There were 102 people who arrived. Half died. They'd landed in a part of Massachusetts that had been home to an estimated 70,000 Wampanoag people, living in about 70 different villages and communities. But 4 years earlier, a plague had swept through, and it had killed somewhere between 50 and 90% of the Wampanoag population. The Pilgrims arrived and found what they thought were abandoned villages in a place that they hoped to colonize. Now, the Pilgrims and the Puritans believed in a system of predestination. They believed in an all-knowing God who knew not only everything that had happened and everything that was happening now, but also everything that was going to happen. So this all-knowing God already knew if you were good or if you were bad, already knew if you were too sinful to be redeemed and you would just automatically go to hell, or if you were in the small group of people who would get to go to heaven after death. And the Pilgrims and the Puritans each had splintered off from the Church of England because they were pretty sure that they were in the elect, the small group of people who were doing it right. But this was a pretty anxious theology to live with. Even if you were pretty sure that you were probably part of the elect, and so were the people in your family and your community, you had to watch them all the time. Because what if they started doing something wrong? And you began to suspect that they were not elect. What if You discovered somebody seemed like they might not be saved. Well, you had to bring them back in line. You don't get to just do whatever you want in this life because God has already decided. You need to be the best you can in this life so that everybody knows you are elect. So imagine with me how confusing it would be for a group of people with this theology to make it across the ocean to North America and find this land that is mysteriously unoccupied but looks like it would be good to settle on. But it's December, and the winter is harsh, and you've never tried to make a new community before, and half of your community dies. Does God favor you or not? This element, this anxious observation, are things going well? Are we being good? Is the community all in line with being elect? This was an early seed in American culture. Even though this was a little more than 400 years ago, we find echoes today. From the Pilgrims and from the Puritans, there is this thread of heightened concern about making sure that all the people around you are doing it right. Because if they're not, it might be a sign that your whole community or your whole family or your whole congregation is doomed. This habit did not magically evaporate from the dominant American culture. So if you grew up in the United States, or probably somewhere else, but I'm mostly qualified to speak about the United States. If you grew up in the United States, I am pretty sure that at some point, at least once, someone put you in a box. Now, I mean a metaphorical box, a box of shoulds and shouldn'ts. And these boxes, supposedly, were going to make us safe and acceptable. And they suggested that anything outside the box might make us unsafe and unacceptable and even unlovable. And we know from child development studies that feeling safe and accepted and connected and loved are vital to survival in childhood. These are core needs for children, and in fact, they are core needs for all of us, all our lives. So maybe you heard comments like, boys don't cry, or, it's not ladylike to whistle. Maybe somebody said you are being way too bossy and nobody's going to want to play with you if you behave like that. Maybe you were told you should speak up and stop being such a wimp all the time. Maybe you made a new friend and then you learned, directly or indirectly, that something about your new friend was not considered appropriate. And almost certainly, at some time, someone important in your life, a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, somebody whose opinion of you valued, somebody said one of these things to you and basically told you that you were doing something wrong. So that line about being too bossy, people don't like girls who are too assertive and nobody will want to play with you. Yeah, I heard that one, right? And I can unpack it now, and I can talk about patriarchy and misogyny and sexism and that boys have leadership potential, but girls are bossy. But when I heard that, I just heard that somebody I loved was telling me that something about me was wrong, and I'd better change it. And maybe you got those messages around gender. Maybe people in your life told you, or implied, that there was a right way and a wrong way to present properly in terms of clothing, or a haircut, or makeup, or jewelry. Maybe you got those messages around race. Who to be friends with, who wasn't a good friend for you, who was a little better or a little worse. Maybe you got these messages around potential partners. Who is it okay for you to have a crush on? Who was it that you were going to break the heart of someday? And these messages do not leave us very much space for dressing in ways that make us happy, for wearing our hair the ways we want it. And they plant these seeds of worry in us. Are you telling me that if I befriend the wrong person, if I fall in love with the wrong person, if I express too much of who I really am, I might jeopardize my relationship with my family? And even if you didn't get messages like this in your family of origin, you for sure encountered them in the world. They were in pop culture, in conversations with others, in expectations at school, because that old Puritan anxiety about making sure that everyone else is doing the right things and not the wrong things is still with us. And the weight of these messages makes it hard to be your fullest self. Yet, while the dominant American culture inherited, and I would say has enthusiastically embraced this hypervigilance from the Puritans and the Pilgrims, we Unitarian Universalists, who are some of the direct institutional descendants of those Puritans and Pilgrims, we also inherited the idea of covenant. This practice, this way of being responsible to and for each other, can be life-giving. We have a few covenants that were written in the late 19th century and which continue to be shared and said in Unitarian Universalist congregations today. One of them was written by L. Griswold Williams, and it goes like this. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. This is a beautiful evolution of theology and of covenant, moving away from worrying about who might need to be cast out to recognizing that we can make agreements that focus on our behavior together and on helping each of us to grow into our whole self. The self we are meant to be, the self we could describe as being in harmony with the divine. Or maybe we might describe as being perfectly yourself. And it's not easy, right? Maybe you have heard the expression, what we dislike in others is often what we fear in ourselves. It can be a helpful filter to run our thoughts through. In those times when strong feelings arise and we're trying to figure out where they're anchored, because sometimes what makes you feel mad at another person is the part of you that doesn't feel safe. And it feels stronger or easier to get angry instead of finding the place in you that needs healing. Or maybe you've had this experience. I have sometimes noticed that when I feel a little mad at somebody else and I really sit with it, I find some jealousy underneath. How come that person gets to be their full self and I don't? Not fair. In our relationships, we are called to notice what needs healing in each of us and to offer compassion to others. We have come a long way theologically from the strict disapproval of the Puritans. These days, we remember that as individuals and as congregations, in the spirit of the Cambridge platform, we are asked to counsel each other And that means to speak and act in love and with self-awareness. I don't know if you've looked at modern American society lately. There's not a lot of love or self-awareness happening in a lot of places. To counsel in love means being able to say both, I believe in you, I want to support you, and also, hey, I care about you, and I think you're making a mistake. Could we talk about it together? And to counsel with self-awareness means pausing first to notice whether that feeling of, hey, I think you're making a mistake, might actually be rooted in something in us that needs healing. And a practice of bringing curiosity to our conversations with each other, because we simply don't know what we don't know. And then we extend our thinking to what it means to be a congregation, a people together. Again, we have come a long way from the Puritans, from that strong need to make everyone be the same so that the whole community can be safe from damnation. We are called now to be communities that are more than simply like-minded. So the other day I was remembering a hot debate from my seminary days. Seminarians have a lot of strong opinions and they have a lot of time for debating them and thinking about them. They're grad students, you know? So this particular hot debate was, what is the metaphor that can describe our Unitarian Universalist congregations? At this time, there were two major metaphors in use. They were sort of dueling with each other. Is the congregation a refuge? Is this a safe place where we come in out of the harsh world and we're comforted and we're accepted? Or is the congregation a base camp where we come in out of the harsh world, but it's to get equipped so that we can go up that mountain together? There were variations. Is the congregation a hospital where we bind up our spiritual wounds? It was a hot debate, but this kind of dualistic thinking cannot explain what a congregation is. A congregation is all of these things. It is a refuge. It is a base camp. It's a place where you come to be loved into your fullest being because the world needs you and your gifts. But these metaphors are not sufficient because they do not cover all the things that a congregation is. It's a little too passive to just be a refuge and a base camp for those who happen to be able to find us. And UUs are not known for being passive. So what else is a congregation? We're not exactly a classroom, although we certainly learn with and from each other. We're not exactly a coffee shop, even though we do have lively conversations and we do consume a lot of hot beverages. I asked my family and they said, oh, a congregation is a team. And I liked that. Let me confess, I don't know much about sports, but I have the general idea that a sports team of any sport is made up of individuals with different skills and strengths and ideas, and they come together, and as a team, they can rise to meet most occasions. A sports team is a group of people who are committed to keep learning together, to keep examining and expanding their skills, to try out different strategies to meet the needs of new occasions. A soccer team doesn't just have one set of plays that they use continuously for 10 years, right? I mean, this is what I learned from watching Ted Lasso. So I hope it's true. When I told my family that I liked the idea of a congregation as a sports team, they said, no, not just sports. Maybe it's a team of scientists, all the different disciplines coming together to collaborate. Maybe it's a team of inventors. The point is, a congregation is a collaborative group addressing challenges and learning both as individuals and as a collective. On a team, not only do we recognize and celebrate differences, because no one of us has to be able to do everything, But we also say to each other, here's a new thing that none of us knows how to do yet, but let's try it. Let's see what we can learn. So a refuge, a base camp, a team, a place to come in for shelter and comfort is sometimes what we need. A place to learn how to make a difference in the world, which surely needs people working for a just and peaceful society. And a place to bring different ideas and skills and ways of being, to experiment and to learn. A place to be challenged. And why do we need such a place? Why would we belong to a congregation in which we are sometimes comfortable and sometimes uncomfortable? Sometimes sure that we know what's going on, and other times trying new things and making mistakes. Is there any little part of you that asks, wouldn't it be better just to go back to the anxious conformity of the Puritans instead of being challenged to grow and learn all the time? Spoilers, it would not. Instead, we gather in the spirit of the people of the First Church of Dedham and so many Unitarian Universalists who came after them to follow the call of love. We do this to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. It is a worthy goal, both within our congregation and in what we offer the wider world. Let us follow it together. Lost the microphone. Please rise in body and voice or in spirit.
Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Just a brief reminder, after the service today, we've got 3 things going on. We have the young adults meeting in room 3 at 11:30, is that right? And young adults are 18 to 40. How a 40-year-old became a young adult is beyond me, but 18 to 40. And then meeting back in the sanctuary at 11:30 is a gathering with the board. And then finally, I'm leading a reflection circle right after service in the youth room on the questions posed by Reverend Monica. grab your coffee, come meet me in the youth room, and we'll discuss the questions. Thank you.
If you are online and you have lit a chalice or a candle, please join with me as we extinguish our chalice with these words, again adapted from the Reverend William Sloane Coffin. May you have the courage to never sell yourself short, the courage to risk something big for something good, and the wisdom to remember that this world is too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love.